everybody, and thanks so much for watching this episode here of Your Revolution Los Angeles. Today I have an amazing guest, Amaya Wangeshi. She's the National Student Coordinator of Students for a People Party. Amaya, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. What about you?
Excellent, pretty good. Thank you so much. Really excited to have you on today. I saw your video on the Movement for People's Party convention. And I mean, I watched you live too, by the way, and was blown back. Really impressed by what you've done, what you were saying, what you're planning on doing. So thank you so much for taking this time out to speak with us. So, just about us, we're Your Revolution Los Angeles. And so we want to make sure that everybody comes out and that we reform the way politics is done. You mentioned on there that one thing that struck me, you said that they said that you're too young when you wanted to participate, correct? And then you said what you think is that what they really meant was that you're too small. And I wanted to kind of hear what you mean by that.
Yeah, I felt really trapped at the time. There was just a lot going on, and really everyone I asked or told me just kind of gave me that excuse. You're too young. But like you said, I knew it was just a matter of size, because that was like their statement was still applicable to themselves. Like even if I suddenly magically turned 18, the argument would still be there. And I think it's just a defense mechanism to protect our own interests and our own heart, because the problems that we are facing are just so massive, and they seem, because a lot of them are systemic, and it just seems like we have had this for so long. I don't know how to do it. So instead of giving it our all and trying, I feel like we tend to just shut down and protect ourselves, because it's not good. You feel guilty, you have a bad conscience. So I think we really just limit ourselves and thus disrespect ourselves by thinking that we're small and that our problems are too big for us to handle.
Wow. And you're saying that no, it's just a matter of what you put your focus on. And that's one thing that I think is really inspiring to everybody, like you said, not even just the youth, that we all have things on in our life that we think are important, right? And, there could be typical things for each age, right? And at that point, you're saying, let's now concentrate on these huge issues. And I think it's amazing that, everybody should start right now. Why not? If you're going to be paying attention to anything, let's pay attention to something that's going to help our future. Is that what you're basically saying, right?
Yeah, I think that our biggest enemy is ourselves. There's this African proverb. It says, it's something along the lines of, once the enemy inside is conquered, the enemy outside can't hurt you. And I love that. And I think it's so big, and can play such a pivotal role throughout our lives, including in politics. Who
Right.
says we have to just adhere to what's normal and to what we're comfortable with? We can always change things, and we shouldn't limit ourselves and our own capabilities.
Right. So then, how was it that you became like progressive and so like actively progressive at such an early age? Like, who what are some of the influences around you? Like, did any of that influence you, or how
Yeah,
did give us a little rundown of how this started? Because like I said, I want to inspire other youth to be just as exceptional.
yeah,
I mean,
thank
if I
you.
put it that way, sorry if that says a lot, but I really mean that.
Yeah. um, I would say I always have to give credit to my upbringing. My mom is brilliant. I really um, admire her, and I could talk all day about her. But in relation
Cool.
to the question, being from Kenya, it really just gifted me with a different perspective on things, and it really allowed me the privilege of being able to see things differently. Like, I'm first generation American, so um, I don't know. I feel like with that comes a sense of variance. And with that, I really just was exposed to a lot, because I frequently like go back to Kenya, come back here. I'm privileged and blessed to have access to like traveling, you know. So I really just try to keep in the loop basically because it's too easy to shelter ourselves and live in a bubble. So I would say that would be like the underlying kind of cushioning that allowed me to be less ignorant and more aware. Secondly, I would say we have such a vast, like, I love how accessible technology is here, you know, and I know that's a gift. I know not everyone has that opportunity to learn, and I'm fascinated by learning, whether it's like languages or like customs or like really educational things. So I think having the like being born in such a technological and in such a modern time, I think it really gave me the opportunity to really just globalize and see and keep what's happening in the world like constant in my mind.
Interesting. And so then at what point, um, what time did you notice, or what events occurred that like that you started noticing that politics was something that was important in your life? And I guess I'm just trying to figure out, the question of like, where did it all begin?
Yeah. Um I if I could give one moment, you know, I don't even know. I feel like my whole life it's just made sense. There wasn't like a moment that made me like I didn't just wake up one day and was like, this is what I need to do, or this is like a calling I have. It was just um, I really feel like it was always there, and I feel like it is always there. You know, I feel like that's a part of maybe the problem of thinking that something magically has to happen and transition us into thinking we're capable. I think it's only a matter of if you have hope. I think it's a matter of if you believe in yourself and if you understand and have a vehicle to create change. You know, like for me, that vehicle was um, women's march. That was actually the first thing. Like when that started, I was like, whoa, like I don't know what this is. So that was my vehicle, but that belief in myself and that trust had always been there. And I think the quicker and the faster that people on a global scale can really just heed their own power, I think the faster change will come.
That's great. And I actually spoke with one of the creators of that women's march that you're talking about, and they were saying about 60% of the participants that was their first time too. So, and I knew it. I knew that from that was going to spark a lot of leaders, and you're absolutely one of them. So I'm wondering then, do you see a lot of difference between you and other people your age? Did any of this stuff distance you from your friends, or your friends distance yourself themselves for you, or did you also inspire some of your friends, to get involved?
Yeah, I think some people were intimidated by me at first just because it's scary. I mean, I was intimidated by everything, but I just used my friends as an opportunity to get that word out. You know, I think relational organizing is the most important type of organizing. I feel like when someone close to you and someone that you trust and you love and you know tells you something that maybe isn't comfortable or is kind of, you know, like taboo, like we don't talk politics here, like we don't do
Mm.
that. I think that's where the message can really be heard because there's you can really just connect with someone and you heed and understand that this person cares about you. So you kind of just give them that chance. So actually, in middle school, um, I organized a color run like for teenage suicide awareness in sixth grade. And that
Oh
was like
wow.
my first taste of like organizing. And then
Mm.
the following year, I created a little group. We called it like GirlCon. And it was just because it was rape culture was really, really big back then. So we just supported each other and organized for a little bit. And it felt really nice, you know, to have a community of people who see flaws within this country and in society and just trying our best to fix them.
Oh wow, that's absolutely fantastic. And so, with even with all that, you were actually the youngest speaker at the Move for People's Party convention. How did that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize it until I was there. um, I was just like, oh, like that's pretty cool. I just, um, I don't know. I think, I feel like the work that we're doing, it's not supposed to be um, like glamorous or very, I try to like steer away from like, you're the youngest person, or like you're like all this greatness, and like thank you, but it really just isn't about me.
Right.
I consider it like a win for young people. We had that voice, that representative there, so I'm very grateful, but I'm not necessarily attached to the fact that it was me, if that makes
Right.
sense.
So that's one thing that I'm really getting from your overall message is saying even through this interview where I'm asking certain questions that are centric to that, you're saying, hey, we're all in this, we're all in this the same, and there could be somebody older that will have less experience. It's just a matter of the experience, the focus on it, and so on and so forth. Because what you mentioned was really important when you said, hey, look, there's the intimidation factor of people that are and especially on, let's say, the right wing, and even some on the left, can get violent. I mean, we see, with protesters, out there and the anti-protest, the anti-protesters that go out there and show off their guns and shooting and so on and so forth. And, we're going up against a big political machine. But your message then is to say, hey, don't worry about any of that. We all need to come together and we all need to talk about it, because you're right. It seems like a taboo thing that we can't talk with our friends or our family about politics. What do you think is the best way then to get around that? Like, how do you start that kind of conversation when somebody doesn't believe the same stuff that you believe?
I think the easiest way to do that is to just come forth honestly and really seek productivity. I think that as a people, we tend to just bicker and fight over the smallest of things, so that whenever it becomes huge and when what we are talking about has some amount of significance or like salience, it disrupts that because we're so used to arguing and to not listening and to not being focused. It's not necessarily about complaining. It is about criticizing, because I see with criticizing, it comes with the expectation of correction, of a suggestion, of a way to make things better. And sometimes people just want to get whatever they're feeling off their chest rather than move forward. So I think no matter what we believe in, or all of these little barriers that we've created with labels and titles, and just the way that we have distanced and put ourselves into isolation, I think if we kind of leave all of that and we just see each other for human beings, for people, part the same overall collective species, where we're just trying to um, live and make the world a good place to live in, because right now I don't see that. And to be honest, I've never seen it. As long as there is persistent and perennial injustice, inequality, and oppression, then there has never been a great world, and there will not be until that is corrected.
Right. Wow, that is such a great point that I don't really think of, because we do get involved a lot in the back and forth. And correct me if I'm wrong, were you basically saying that, don't even worry about that. Worry about the actions that you take, and the rest will kind of fall into place. Is that basically what you're saying in a way?
Yeah, and with that, I don't want to come across as insensitive to pain. I think it is also um, pretty critical to allow yourself time to mourn and time to grieve over the situations and circumstances that you are placed in. I think only in relation to moving forward, it just have a good balance, because we need to be empathetic and sympathetic. We need to understand each other and our pains and our grievances. So I think just a good balance. I don't want to say something an extremity of another extremity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So then with that, what are some of the plans, moving forward as far as with the Student for a People Party?
Yeah, so we actually had our first meeting last week, and we're just going to be continuing laying down the groundwork and the foundation just because it needs to be student run and it needs to be student led. And that's where so many organizations get it wrong, you know?
Oh yeah.
um, if you don't have the voice of young people involved in something catered for them, it just simply won't work. So I'm having everyone who's been interested, who's filled out like the form on our website, peoplesparty.org, but like under organized, there's a little students for People's Party section. And we're just meeting to establish different committees because, like I said, I want it to be very decentralized, yet very professional and official. I've been a part of so many different student organizations or movements, and I've seen the flaws and strengths of each. So I'm very, very grateful for that perspective that it's gifted me with. So I think we'll have a good balance,
Mm.
and I'm really excited.
For example, then what are some of the, or at least maybe name off one of the things that um, that you guys are going to be putting forward that's better, like you said, and so that way they'll know, for those that are trying to join, they'll know what's going on. What give me an example of one of those?
An example of one of our projects.
Yeah, or just more of a, how you said right now that you kind of are aware of how other organization tactics were done, and saying that you learn from that, and now with this you're able to be free of that, right, and make your own way. Yeah, if you can hand it off an example of that.
Oh, okay. So I would say one that I've seen consistently would be that with us being young and a lot of us like being new to politics or not as experienced, I think there comes that burden of like I usually tend to lead like with a decentralized format. I think that's a good way, you know, very um, democratic. People's voices need to be heard and their opinion should be weighed equally. But with that, with all of that,
Mm.
it gets hard because I love a lot of the people I work with, and you know, we talk about like things not politically
Yeah.
related, or I become friends with them really. Um, so I feel like that's a thing that happens a lot with young people. That boundary with professionalism, I feel like, kind of gets blurred a lot, and with that comes a lack of respect. So I really want to instill that with we can be we can have a really safe open and fun community, but at the same time we can get stuff done. And I feel like that has been kind of a big question mark with true student organizations and a project that we are doing. I'm really big on political education,
Oh,
so
great.
we're having that committee too.
That's awesome. Well, so I actually then do want to talk about that. So, political education, I also think that ought to go hand in hand with like journalistic education. And what I mean by that is, from my experience, from politics, is seeing that there is a bias, even by that claim to have no bias. They'll just have a certain slant, and they're not actually being honest. And so it's harder for some people to know what the truth really is. And so I know in this country we do have an issue with journalistic integrity and all that. And I'm just wondering if that is something that's on your radar too, with that. And so is that anything that, I guess maybe that's my question. Is that something that's on your guys' radar as well?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of propaganda and there's a lot of, as you said, biased news. So definitely, like with comms, that's so big, and that's where I think communications and political education kind of like interconnect, just because you know one is the platform to use for the other. So really, just I think education liberates truly. I think it's such a powerful um, weapon, really. And
Hmm.
I think it can be used for love and for compassion. So I think the more educated we can become, the farther from ignorance we can flee. So definitely providing young people with clear, relatable, because, it sometimes you need to hold someone's hand, it's like, or
Right.
give them training wheels. So I'm very, very big on that.
Right.
In the way that I tackle student organizing, there's no shame in being new. And just because you're old doesn't mean you are experienced. And just because you're young does not mean you are like it's antithesis. So um, definitely just creating a model and a manner where people can digest and relate to what's happening around them is the best way, I think, for young people.
Nice. Totally agree. And so, which um, issues, political issues, are the most important to you at this point? That might sound like an unfair question, but if you were to pinpoint some of the ones that really catch your interest, that you specifically work on, speak to that.
Oh, sorry, you kind of like
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, am I having internet issues this whole time? Yeah, can you kind of speak to which, um, which are the most, I guess, the most important issues, political issues right now is what I'm trying to ask. Like, are there certain topics that you want to spearhead?
yeah, I would say that's always difficult because everything's wrong.
Because they're all super important. But is there one specific issue that, like, you're really passionate about, that you say, hey, this is the one I really know a lot about, and so I'm going to head this project and move forward, and let's pick up all these people, and let's move the voting block a certain way.
Yeah, I would, if I could narrow it down to one,
Yeah.
I would narrow it down to being against corruption. I feel like that covers everything because you can fight for climate, you can fight for racial injustice, you can fight for immigration, you can fight for everything. But as long as there is a corrupt system in place, no matter how like hard we fight, it won't be corrected. No matter how much we vote, it also won't be corrected. So we have to really just put people in office from the smallest capacity to the largest one, and we can't scapegoat one individual or one party or one. It's really, it needs to take a whole village to get what we want, and we heed that there is systemic issues that, and that means there needs to be systemic change. And so I think taking away corporate money and taking away just, there's just so much wrong with how this country is wired, So I think if we can change that and make it true democracy, where people actually have a say, like the electoral college, like why is that here? Like there
Right.
should be true democracy, and I will fight for that.
All right, that's fantastic, because yeah, we do need to get money out of politics, and I'm really excited to see, what your organization will bring as time goes on. So just one last thing quickly before we wrap up, you have a website, if I'm not mistaken, that is your website, right? Beyondbernie.org. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
So
So
did you start that?
yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I was reading it, and it has some fantastic stuff that hit home, honestly. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I kind of, so it started within YDSA, like a little like high school group. Um, Little, not in the sense of age, of course, but just it was just small.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be called out for that. But and it was just, it was a very odd time after Bernie dropped. It was very like Twilight Zone. People didn't really know what's going on. A lot of people just, their hopes just fell through like the floor, because we fight so hard. Like we really did fight, and we gave it our all, and we still lost. And we've seen that throughout with Jessica Screen in Delaware for U.S. Senate, Charles Booker for U.S. Senate in Kentucky. We've had way too many losses. So I think a lot of people just kind of broke. And as disheartening as that was, instead of just falling apart, I really and literally told people, okay, you get this one day, let it all out, because tomorrow we really just have to start again. So it was just born out of that transition. I wanted to give a space for young socialists, people who just got motivated and energized by Bernie, because I felt back to this like this sense of intimidation. I feel like a lot of people and their beliefs were fragile at that point, and I didn't want them to be scared off by these really huge, big organizations. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted them to just have a place where they could literally just phone bank and call voters for candidates who really just um, represent us.
That's perfect. And you were saying just now that that with this, hold on, give me just one second, because so many people honestly felt the way that you felt when Bernie dropped out and everything. Oh my god! And so many people I talked to, you know, first off, when Bernie started it, it really gave voice to the people, right? And once he dropped off, that also disabled a lot of people, even myself. So I'm super happy that you're bringing this forward, that you're stepping up. So you mentioned, you know, young socialists, and I absolutely think that's great, because I know what socialism means. Unfortunately, in this country, there's still an unfavorable unfavorability around the word socialist. And so I'm just wondering if you've come up with anything to combat that, like any kind of messaging to combat that.
Read. That would be my message. Go read theory. Go understand.
Yeah,
And even that sometimes is kind of overwhelming. So
yeah,
there's a lot of ways. Talk to someone who is a socialist so they can break it down. Because I know not everyone can really like understand like such a difficult piece of literature. But yeah, I would say read, educate yourself, and don't be afraid. Don't come into it with baggage. Come into it with a clean slate, with open ears and an open mind, and really just listen to what it tells you, and just believe in the power of us and what we can accomplish overall. Nothing is set in stone.
that's smart. Amaya, I wish everybody thought like you when it comes to this, and I hope that with your influence, people as they grow older will. So, just to wrap up, how can students your age, or you know, just people in general, get involved in this, and where can they reach you?
So if you're interested in Students for People's Party, you can go to peoplesparty.org. Under the Organized tab, there's a Students for People's Party tab, and just read through it, fill it out, and you'll join our Slack, and you'll get some few motivating words from me just because I think that that's good. And
Yeah,
we'll just welcome you on board. We're really just focusing on creating that foundation so that we can start rolling, really. My Twitter is just Amaya Wangeshi.
that's awesome. Okay, and we'll have all that in the description box below. Amaya Wangeshi, National Student Coordinator, Student for People Party. Really, thank you for your time, and just the conversation with you was great. So thank you so much.
Likewise, this is really fun.
Great. Okay, everybody have a good one. Take care.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by and spending time with us today. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons and support us on Patreon so we can keep bringing you some amazing content. You can also follow us on social media. Links are all below. We'll see you guys next time. And remember, this is your revolution.